Knowledge, Domain 9, Lesson 1. Here are this lesson's learning targets. I can identify a world map and will discuss how travel today is different from travel hundreds of years ago. I can explain why Europeans wanted to travel to Asia. I can demonstrate an understanding of the word spices. I can locate Europe, Asia, and Africa on a map. Introducing the Read Aloud. Have you ever taken a trip far from home? If so, where did you go and how did you get there? A long time ago, travel was very different. There were no airplanes, trains, buses, or cars. People walked, rode on the back of animals, such as horses or camels, or traveled on ships or boats. In today's story, you will hear the following new vocabulary words. Ships. Ships are large boats that sail on the ocean. Spices. Spices are items that come from plants and that add flavor to food. Travelers. Travelers are people who go to far away places. You will also hear the word treasures. Treasures are things that are valuable because they cost a lot, like gold, or because they have a special meaning for someone, like a special toy. You've heard the word treasures during Domain 7, Kings and Queens. How do people know how to get from one place to another? Do they just guess that the grocery store is down the road and to the left? Of course not. Maps are a great help to people when they travel. People use maps as guides to get from one place to another. What is the large blue area on the map? That's right, it's the water or oceans. What are the colored areas called? That's right, it's the land or continent. This is the continent of Europe. The people who live on that continent are called Europeans. Today's story takes place on the continent of Europe in the country of Italy. This area of Asia used to be called the Indies. In today's read aloud, some Europeans traveled to far away Asia, to the Indies. You will also hear about the continent of Africa in today's read aloud. Read aloud, The Spice Seekers. This is a map of what the world would have looked like over 500 years ago, back in 1492. 500 years ago, people did not know very much about all of the continents and oceans. People did not even know that some continents existed at all. Today's read aloud takes place in Italy over 500 years ago. Parts of the story are made up of true events, and other parts of the story are fiction. The characters in this story are a young Italian boy named Giovanni and his cousin Sophia. Giovanni is planning to take a long journey to buy spices. Listen carefully to find out whether or not Giovanni goes on his trip to buy spices. Sophia, Sophia, Giovanni called out excitedly. Last night Father told me that he and Uncle Gino are taking me with them to the Indies. As he talks to his cousin Sophia about his plans, Giovanni imagines himself making the journey on a mule. We are going to buy delicious, good-smelling spices to make our food taste better. We'll even get some spices to use in perfume to make people smell good. And in the Indies, they have bright, beautiful cloth for making clothes much finer than ours. Father says that if we can bring these things home, we can sell them for a lot of money and be rich. We might even find gold there and be even richer. Sophia looked horrified. But Giovanni, everyone knows that that is a long, dangerous journey. Sometimes it takes years to get to the Indies and back, if you make it home at all. You must walk or ride on the backs of mules and horses. Bandits hide out in the mountain passes, waiting to ambush travelers and steal their money. If you get past the bandits, you still have to cross wide, dry deserts. If you run out of water there, you will die of thirst. And stop, Sophia, said Giovanni, holding up his hand. Uncle Gino knows people who have made the trip, so don't worry so much. They've told him all about it. We'll make it, you'll see, and I will bring you back some beautiful cloth so you can make a dress to wear. Sophia was not convinced, but Giovanni seemed sure that he was right. Just a few days later, however, Giovanni sadly told his cousin, "We cannot go after all. In order to get to the Indies, we must pass through the great city of Constantinople. Father just learned that the people of Constantinople have decided not to let Europeans travel through their city anymore. They are blocking our passage." Giovanni sadly continued. "The people of Constantinople don't want us to get our own gold, spices, and other things. They want to send their own people east to buy these valuable items and then sell them to us for a much higher price." Giovanni was upset, but Sophia was secretly glad he could not make the dangerous journey. Giovanni and his family were not the only disappointed people. All over Europe, people wanted things that they could only get from Asia, the lands to the east. Some of these people were kings and queens. They thought, "We are rich and powerful. We could be even richer if we could buy Asian spices and sell them for higher prices in other parts of Europe, just as the people of Constantinople want to do with us. But how can we do this? We have people we could send and money enough to pay for their trip, but now the road is closed to them." European kings and queens had a new thought. Maybe we could send ships or large boats sailing to the Indies. Our sailors could fill the ships with wonderful treasures, such as gold, cloth, and spices, then sell them back home. But how can our ships reach the Indies? They would have to sail south in the great Atlantic Ocean, far from the lands we know well, and into the waters that are new to us. They would have to go all the way down the edge of Africa, around the bottom, and sail up the other side to get to the Indies. No one has ever done that. We don't even know how big Africa is, or if the ocean goes all the way around to the Indies. Maybe there are huge, hungry sea monsters waiting to attack our ships and eat the sailors who fall into the water. Maybe there are strangers who would not want our sailors to travel near their countries and might try to stop them. Hmm, Sailing to the Indies may be harder than going by land. We had better ask the smartest people we know what they think before we decide what to do. So the kings and queens began looking for people who could help them. They needed to find excellent sailors and brave explorers ready for the adventure. Now I will ask you some questions about today's story. To where did Giovanni plan to travel? Giovanni planned to travel to the Indies. How did Europeans travel to Asia during Giovanni's time? Europeans sailed part of the way and then walked across land or rode on the back of animals. Do Giovanni and Sophia live in today's time? How can you tell? No, Giovanni and Sophia do not live in today's time. The read aloud said it was long ago. The only way to go to the Indies was by walking or riding on a mule back then. Was Giovanni able to go on the journey over land from Italy to the Indies? Why or why not? No, Giovanni was not able to go on the journey over land. The people in the city of Constantinople blocked the roads so that Europeans could no longer travel overland to Asia. What new ways were the people going to try in order to get to the Indies from Europe? People were going to try to take ships by sea, sailing south around Africa and then east to Asia. This new path involved them traveling around another continent. What is the name of that continent? The name of that continent is Africa. Now it's time for some word work. In today's read aloud, you heard, we are going to buy delicious, good smelling spices to make our food taste better. We'll even get some spices to use in perfume to make people smell good. Say the word spices with me. Spices. Spices are items that come from plants and add flavor to food. At the market, we bought spices, vegetables, and meat to make dinner. Tell about spices you have tasted or what foods you have tasted with spices. Use the following sentence frame to tell a sentence about spices. One of the spices I like is, now, what is the word we've been talking about? That's right, spices. Let's review the learning targets of this lesson. I can identify a world map and will discuss how travel today is different from travel hundreds of years ago. I can explain why Europeans wanted to travel to Asia. I can demonstrate an understanding of the word spices. I can locate Europe, Asia, and Africa on a world map. Happy learning!